Welcome back to Lights Camera Akron. Once again, I'm Jeannie McBride.
And I'm Rachel Farringer. This past week, the Chief of Communications Officer and Associate Vice President of the University of Akron, Eileen Corey, gave a lecture to the School of Communication. Let's take a look at what Eileen Corey said about what it truly means to look at yourself in the mirror.
What brings those worlds together is, I like to call it passionate curiosity. I don't think you can be a good reporter without being passionately curious about everything. You know, oh my God, I hate physics, but yeah, I'm kind of curious to find out, physics laws of some kind. I have to tell you, I digress. I'm the one who last year, when there was a story, when I heard a story about one of our pole vaulters, Sean Barber, he was a freshman at the time, and he leaped 17 feet into the air, and I'm thinking, what are you talking about? And so I asked my staff, my internal communication staff, to prepare a story about pole vaulting. And we ended up hooking up with this physics student who was a great storyteller. That's what he wants to do. He wants to be a science storyteller. And we assigned him to interview Sean to do something on the physics of pole vaulting. I actually understood it after I saw the story. But that's what passionate curiosity. And if you're not passionately curious, if you don't want to ask a million questions, frankly, you don't belong in journalism, you don't belong in broadcast journalism, and you sure don't belong in the field of communications. Just because you're right and you like to tell stories, that's not enough. So passionate curiosity is in that. Storytelling is in that. The desire to get it right, but get it memorable is in that. And that's what brings everything together. So, I started as a general assignment reporter, but moved into medical reporting.
Wow, that really was a great message. Thank you, Eileen, for sharing your story with our students.
We now turn to a more humorous topic, and LCA anchor Alicia Morris has more on this topic. So, Alicia, what exactly is your story about?
Well, recently, a University of Akron professor decided to take a deeper look at our sense of humor and how it relates to aging, trying to really pinpoint whether or not what we find funny has to do with the social influences of each generation or if it is related to how the brain develops as we age. Either way, this study has benefits that go far beyond understanding just humor.
I think that's what makes, life more interesting, is that we don't all have the same opinions and experiences, and we can learn from each other. And
Jennifer Stanley is an associate professor of psychology at the University of Akron. She was interested in discovering whether or not our humor changes as we age.
why do you use humor? What is the goal when you use humor? And are there age differences in those goals,
Along with her co-authors, they conducted a study with young adults and older adults to see what their humor preferences were.
We were interested to see if young adults ages 18 to 30 years old versus older adults ages 60 to 80 years old. That's what we recruited for. We're going to find those clips as funny, and how would they rate those behaviors, those inappropriate behaviors.
Using clips such as The Office and other popular American sitcoms, Stanley determined who preferred affiliative versus aggressive humor.
We had 7 clips that were examples of people being inappropriate, and that in those situation comedies, and 7 control clips where those characters were behaving appropriately. And participants had to watch the videos, and then they rated how appropriate was the main character's behavior, and then how funny did you think it was, from 0 to 100%.
According to this, young adults preferred the aggressive humor, meaning it's at the expense of someone else.
As older adults were more offended by the aggressive humor. They didn't think it was funny.
But why is this? Why do older adults not enjoy the same inappropriate humor as someone in their 20s? Stanley has 2 possible explanations.
If it's something that changes as we age, is it something developmental? When the young adults in today's study are 60 years old in, year 2054 or whatever, will they now not like The Office and not like that aggressive humor? Or is it something generational? Does each generation have its sort of funny bone, what they find humorous?
Stanley suggests that it could be related to either developmental or generational differences.
If it's something developmental, it might suggest that as we get older, we might be looking for humor to help us in the situations we're encountering, such as there's a lot of loss that accompanies aging, so social loss, loss in cognitive abilities, physical loss, and maybe to cope with these losses, we focus more on other types of humor, like affiliative humor that brings people together. But I also think it's interesting to think about it as a generational difference. I mean, it really shows us how, our culture and our society shapes not just, the judgments that we make, but even what we find funny.
Some may think, what is the point of understanding humor preferences? Stanley believes that it can help to bridge the generation gaps.
Findings like these can help to inform us how we can come together and talk to people of different generations. Knowing about these differences, whether they're generational or developmental, I think helps open the doors to better communication.
Most 20-somethings probably assume that adults old enough to be their parents or grandparents just aren't up to date with pop culture of 2014.
I want other people to realize that a difference between a young and an older adult, just because you're watching TV with your grandma and she's not laughing at The Office, I think people make the assumption a lot of times that, grandma doesn't get it. I think, in fact, sometimes talking to them and realizing that they do get it, they don't think it's funny.
After this study, we are getting closer to bringing the generations together of the past, present, and future. Alicia Morris, ZTV, Lights Camera Akron.
Once again, psychology shows us that when it comes to understanding people, there's never one correct answer. So now all we can do is attempt to open our minds to new possibilities with each new discovery. Now back to Jeanne and Rachel.
Thanks, Alicia, for that report. The University of Akron's National Society of Collegiate Scholars chapter inducted 100 academically talented students on September 28, 2014. The Honor Society recognizes the achievements of high-achieving first and second-year students with a 3.4 or higher GPA. The 470 chapter members serve the university through leadership, community service, and scholarship.
On September 29, 2014, the University of Akron's College of Business Administration was awarded special recognition for its successful and rapidly growing internship program for students. Over 80% of CBA students are actively participating in internships and perform at such a competitive level that Northwestern Mutual ranked Akron number 2 on its list of 492 colleges in its National Intern College Team competition. The award was based on intern team development as measured by client relationships.
The University of Akron was the big winner in the distribution of funding from the Ohio Third Frontier Commission. Of the $12.5 million in awards announced yesterday to support startups and commercialized technologies, University of Akron researchers and their collaborators received a combined total of more than $5 million, more than any other single organization in the state. UA received awards in 2 categories.
$3 million was given to the University of Akron to enable the development of novel polymers, X-ray shielding materials, protective coatings for medical devices, catheters, and antimicrobial materials for wound healing. And $1.74 million was given to the University of Akron to develop a smart sensor platform for mitigating electrical grid outages and an HVAC sensor system to regulate airflow and improve system efficiency. Finally, the University of Akron was also given 2 technological validation grants and startup grants to increase scientific funding and future growth.
Unfortunately, it's time for another break.
But don't worry, we'll be back with more Akron news for you.
Thank you for watching Lights, Camera, Akron.
And don't change that channel. We'll be right back.